there is always a suspicion that a new virus might emerge.
You can imagine the nightmare scenario where you just have a vast epidemic with many cases leading to a huge mortality.
The River Congo is the big artery that gives life to the whole nation.
Zoonotic diseases do not choose, so that allows us to transport diseases from one corner of the world to the other.
If you go inside a forest, there is chance to encounter new pathogens.
These are in a sense a sentinel species, an early warning system for humanity.
We are now in a world where new pathogens will come out that will constitute a threat for humanity.
This pristine wilderness in the Congo is under pressure. Farming and the trade in wildlife is being compounded by logging and industrialization. The ecology destroyed by the twin pressures of business and a population explosion. This forest has nurtured and sustained people living here for millennia. But its trees are vanishing fast, revealing reservoirs of hundreds of thousands of potentially deadly diseases. Before globalization, infections that emerged from the rainforest were isolated in this vast landscape. Now the River Congo is part of a transport network that can reach anywhere on the planet. And wherever people travel, deadly viruses like COVID and Ebola go too. Ngende, 700 kilometers upriver from the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, has been struck by a recent outbreak of Ebola, a disease that kills 70% of its victims by bursting their blood vessels. This equipment has been supplied by the US Centers for Disease Control. They're testing for Ebola, part of an effort to contain the disease here. It's already killed 3 out of 11 people. But now there are new worries. And we quickly learn that doctors fear they may have stumbled onto a new virus, one for which there may be neither treatment nor cure. Are you afraid of unknown diseases that may come from the forest?
Yes, that's what we have got now. With the recent situation, we have cases that look very similar to Ebola. But when we do the tests, they are negative. So we have to do more examinations to figure out what's going on. At the moment, there are a couple of suspected cases over there. And that's why we are currently asking for the equipment we need for diagnosing diseases other than Ebola and COVID.
This is the fragile barrier between the forest reservoirs of potentially apocalyptic diseases and the rest of humankind. The place where a devastating disease could make the leap between species, like Ebola and like COVID-19. Treatments and vaccines for Ebola now mean that while it's often deadly, more patients do survive. Vaccinations have also been developed for COVID-19, but medicine will never keep up with new diseases emerging from the wilderness. This patient has Ebola symptoms, but she's been tested for that virus and she's negative. She's one of 2 victims who doctors here fear may be fighting a disease never encountered before. Are you afraid of unknown diseases, new ones coming out of the forest like COVID?
Yes, indeed, we should be afraid. That was how Ebola came. It was unknown, an unknown disease, and then after tests, it turned out to be a virus.
And there are still many more.
Yes, monkeypox.
The patients with the undiagnosed illness recovered, but after extensive tests here and in Kinshasa, what had caused them to fall ill remains a mystery. The moment a disease crosses from animal to human is called zoonosis. Recent human history has seen HIV, COVID-19, SARS, MERS, West Nile virus and Ebola all make that leap. Scientists estimate that there may be hundreds of thousands of undiscovered viruses that could do the same. Keeping the zoonotic diseases locked up in the wilderness is tough. Now this river is part of a networked world. Ngendi, a small town on the river Ruki, is deep in the Congo basin. It's accessible only by boat. But that's how a virus can travel to the provincial capital, Mbandaka, and to the country's capital, Kinshasa, and beyond. There have always been fears that when Ebola breaks out, it could spread abroad. It's killed 55 people in this province this year. Around 14,000 people have died in epidemics of Ebola in the last decade. The hemorrhagic fever emerges from unknown sources in the rainforest. The Congo's had the most Ebola outbreaks since it was first identified 44 years ago. And this city has been the epicenter of the latest fight. It's also key to alerting the world to new diseases. Scientists here risk their lives every day testing for Ebola and COVID-19. They discovered that this Ebola outbreak was caused by human-to-human infection and by a new strain from the rainforest.
Here in Mbandaka, they are battling with the 5th local outbreak of the Ebola virus, which is on its 11th here in the Congo. They're getting a grip on it, they believe. But they're also concerned about finding unknown viruses that have emerged from the forest, just like Ebola.
Some new technology, uncertain funding, and dedication is what keeps these fragile investigations running. And they're essential.
If we don't have all this in place, you can imagine the nightmare scenario where you just have a vast epidemic with many cases leading to a huge mortality and morbidity.
The latest Ebola outbreak was met with an international response to save lives and stop the spread of the disease to the rest of the world. Between 2000 and 2014, an area greater than Bangladesh was cleared of forest in the Congo basin. The country's population has nearly doubled to around 90 million in just 20 years. And with every year that passes, people push further into the forests, closing the gap between humans and new diseases that could kill them. This town is just getting over the Ebola outbreak. It killed 19 here, 13 survived. But the danger is not over. Do you think that this is the end of the zoonotic diseases?
No, it's not the end. As you know, we are in an equatorial climate, in the equatorial forest, and in the majority of cases, the viruses come from bats. And obviously, in our province in the equatorial forest, there are quite a lot of bats, which means that the disease still persists.
We join a small team of Congolese scientists who've been dispatched to remote areas to look for bats. They're key to understanding new diseases. Bats make up 1/5 of all mammal species. These men are the tip of the scientific spear. Their work is critical in tracking and preventing local epidemics. They're also the main source of intelligence to alert against future pandemics. Bats are linked to many zoonotic diseases, notably COVID-19, other coronaviruses like MERS and SARS, plus hemorrhagic fevers, Ebola and Marburg. The heat from their super-fast metabolism may explain why they can survive exposure to so many diseases. Their tight social networks explain how easily bats can catch viruses. They spread them by travelling long distances in search of food. What are you going to do now?
Now we are going to put it in the capture bag. When you've got him out of the net, we have capture bags just over there. You have to be really careful, or they bite.
Now these bats are being captured right next to a dwelling. They're not the sort of bats that the locals are eating. They say those are bigger and fatter and they catch them high up in the trees. The virologists have told us that whilst they haven't found the Ebola virus itself inside them, they have found the antibodies. So these are in a sense a sentinel species, an early warning system for humanity.
Zoonosis, the moment a virus jumps from animal to human, is most likely to happen when animals are killed or live close to people, like bats in the grounds of a hospital. More than 100 new viruses have been discovered in the Congo over a decade, including many coronaviruses in bats. A nip could prove fatal, start an epidemic, or worse. So could a cross-infection from an unknown host to bats, to chickens, to children. The bats are bagged up close to a family home and taken for analysis in Mbandaka. Blood samples and swabs are checked for Ebola and COVID-19. Unlike many other bats here, they're not eaten, and most will survive capture and then are released. Their samples are flown to Kinshasa to test for other diseases. A medical checkpoint in the nearby village is dealing with Ebola, COVID, and whatever comes next, because the local population is constantly expanding into the forest.
The scale of the destruction of the rainforest here in the Congo is not yet on the scale that we've seen in the Amazon. A great deal of it is a result of local farmers who clear the land and then farm it for a few years. The problem is that that causes fragmentation of the rainforest, increasing the surface area between the forest and humanity. And some way has to be found to help the local communities here protect the rainforest so that humanity can be protected from the diseases locked up inside it.
That is the long-term problem. Right now, the focus is on early warning, so that a virus found here in Mbandaka can be stopped before it gets here, Kinshasa, and into the global bloodstream. This, in the Congo, is how new viruses mostly travel. Aside from COVID-19, that was imported from Europe by air passengers. Poverty and poor sanitation, a perfect breeding ground for the COVID-19 pandemic. And yet, hardly a mask in sight, no social distancing. No one here seems afraid of COVID.
In Congo, we haven't seen it. No dead. No, haven't seen the illness.
It's a disease that really exists, but I've never seen anyone sick with this illness.
Around 370 Congolese are reported to have died from COVID-19 since March, but more than 6 times that have been killed by Ebola here in 2 years. At the Congo's National Institute for Biomedical Research, scientists are testing for COVID, they're tracking Ebola, and they're on alert. Identifying new diseases is tough.
There are definitely unknown ones in the forest. The wild fauna are certainly breeding grounds for many unknown viruses. When the research is more advanced, we will be able to detect many new viruses amongst the wild fauna.
The stakes could not be higher.
So this is the forest.
Professor J.J. Muyembe is a world authority in the field of emerging diseases. He's been tracking them since he discovered Ebola in 1976.
So it's become an outbreak.
But clearly, therefore, if you don't protect the forest, you're going to increase the number of potential contacts between a hunter in the forest and pathogens within the forest.
Yes.
And that's going to lead one day to the big pandemic.
Yes, the big pandemic, yes.
Are you afraid that there is going to be more emerging diseases coming out of the forest? Something that is perhaps spreads like COVID but kills like Ebola?
We are now in a world where new pathogens will come out that will constitute a threat for humanity. And as you know, most of these diseases emerge from Africa.
Human enterprise, the struggle for survival, is causing an ecological shift that's catastrophic.
The River Congo is the great artery that gives life to the whole nation, but it's also the route by which the results of deforestation are exported.
Like these smoked monkeys being sold for food. Guided by wildlife trade investigator Adams Kasinga, I filmed undercover in a Kinshasa bushmeat market where a lot of protected species are sold.
The mob has no soul. It takes one person to shout like that, and before you know it, there is a mob around us. You must also understand that some people rely on this for their livelihood. And once they feel that their livelihood is being threatened, you know to which extent people would go. And most of those people are aware that what they are doing is not right.
Once subsistence food, now bushmeat is an international luxury commodity.
Can you arrange for shipping to Europe and America?
I'm told that's no problem. There's an agency for that. The monkeys are protected species, so they're hidden with the antelope meat for smuggling by cutting off their heads and arms. The monkey, probably a colobus, is $22, negotiable. The names of two places that we had visited kept coming up in the market as main sources for bushmeat. Both were dealing with an Ebola outbreak. And Ngende was a possible source of new disease. The UN estimates that some 5 million tons of meat are taken out of the Congo Basin each year. Every gram of it a potential source of infection. But the most potent source of viruses are live animals, like these giant snails or river turtles at $30 to $50 each.
So this is luxury meat?
It's luxury meat. It's not for the poor.
It's for the rich?
It's for the rich.
Part of a multi-billion-dollar global trade in wildlife that's a cause and a symptom of ecological disaster.
You've got high-ranking officials who believe in superstition that if you consume a certain type of bushmeat, it will give you strength. You also have people who consume it as a symbol of status. But also, in the last 10 to 20 years, we have experienced an influx of expatriates, mainly from Southeastern Asia, and who demand to eat certain types of meat, such as turtles, snakes, primates.
So unchecked destruction of the planet's wilderness may now mean Mother Nature can deal with humankind as the most deadly pathogen. And in the armory of the forest, maybe already unlocked in the Congo, is her antidote. Could there be a rainforest virus that is as infectious as COVID, but as fatal as Ebola, perhaps ending humanity's dominion over the earth? So this abandoned palace of a long-dead dictator is not a relic of the past. It's a vision of the future.